A Boeing 737 missed their first approach, but they attempted to do a go-around for a second approach, but ended up crashing nose down. The crash ended up in a big explosive fire, killing all 50 people on the plane. The accident occurred on November 17, 2013 at 1524 UTC at night, trying to land on runway 29.
Evening. Flight U-363 was reportedly making a second approach to the airport. The pilot
Switched to manual control and made a correction when the plane lost speed into a near vertical dive and crashed on the top. This caused the fuel tank to explode, killing all 50 people on board. The NTSB investigated this accident. They found that this accident may have stemmed from either human error or a malfunction with the system. They also found that the pilot was flying as a navigator from 1991 to 2010. He did not undergo pilot training and his certificate license were fake. The FL was working for the airlines as an airline ground mechanic. Then in 2010, he obtained his pilot license, but both pilots were seen as weak pilots. During the deviation from approach pattern, the crew experienced time deficiency, which led to stress. After the impact, the fuel tank was destroyed and there was a fire. The firefighter localized the fire in 40 minutes, but it was completely out only 9 hours later. According to the International Air Transit Association, Russia had one of the world's worst air traffic safety record in 2011.
Well, it was early reports did say there was precipitation in the area, and like you said, multiple landing attempts. And this was also a nighttime landing. So those are definitely risk factors that could have played a role in this. But what isn't known right now is whether or not there are other issues going on. Were there navigational issues with the aircraft? Did the airport even have a working landing system in place for landing in poor weather? So this has to be resolved by the Russian authorities.
What can you add to what we're reporting about the poor safety record, aviation safety record in Russia? What more can you tell us about that?
Well, Russia, as you know, went through a lot of changes after the fall of the Soviet Union. And what you ended up having was a system where there are a lot of aircraft throughout Russia, the former Soviet Union, that would not be up to the standards that we have here in the U.S. or in Western Europe. That is, they were designed and certified under a completely different standard. And in some cases, some kinds of aircraft in Russia don't have the support that you would have from the companies that made them, that you would have for Boeing or an Airbus. Now, point of fact, this particular aircraft that crashed was a Boeing 737-500, and although that model is no longer in production, it's a model that's in use, in wide use around the world. So conceivably, there wouldn't have been any problem getting spare parts and that sort of thing.
According to the NTSB, they found that there needs to be more training on go-around actions in FD mode and to pay special attention. Also to train the features of aircraft system operations during approach and missed approaches. Lastly, to introduce a unified database to control issue licenses to aviation personnel stating the copies, the evidence, and etc. Alright, first question is, do you believe that pilots from Russia needs to be retrained due to a lack of experience they may or may not have?
The pilots in Russia are good pilots under ICAO standards, the ones, like Aeroflot. They have a very good record, actually. They have probably one of the best records in the airline industry. But however, the domestic airlines that are operated in Russia are probably lacking maintenance as well as proper training and experience.
All right. So Russia aircraft is designed and certified under different standards. Do you believe that if they were under U.S. standards, then the crew members would have been more experienced?
You know, looking at this crash, it was a Boeing 737. That's an American-made aircraft. Reading the report, it did say that there might have been some kind of technical malfunction. I don't know what it was. I don't know if there really was one, but what was concluded was the fact that the pilot, the captain, seemed to be inexperienced in a go-around procedure. So that was probably 100% pilot error in that particular case. So to answer your question, if it was under U.S. or ICAO standards, yeah, I believe so. I think we have some of the highest safety standards and training here in the U.S. than anywhere else in the world as far as the airlines go.
The PIC, pilot in command, lied about his licenses. The license he claimed he had were fake, and the investigators didn't know where he obtained his certificates from. Why is this such a problem in aviation safety?
Well, that's kind of, that's clearly, if somebody lies about their ratings and their abilities as an aviator, is it their fault that they lied? No, they lied because that's what they did. Whose fault was it? Well, it's probably the people who were hiring him, the people who were training him, the people who tested him. And I have no idea. I'm actually kind of stumped about how somebody like that can get into a company and then kill, was it 50 or 70 people in an accident like that. I mean, to me, it's just kind of, I'm just stumped by this because this cannot happen here. Although I've heard some cases here and there. There was similar cases here as well, where a pilot did lie, or they basically said they had a certain amount of experience, which they really didn't, and the company failed to see that, and so sometimes it does slip through the cracks. But otherwise, I don't know how that could happen under our regulations and the way we do things here.
What are some recommendations for foreign countries who follow different sets of rules? Do you believe they should follow U.S. rules or standards?
Again, from my knowledge, with ICAO standards, with the way we do things here and everywhere else, the way we're supposed to do things, as far as safety is concerned, the way we're supposed to do things everywhere else, I think we do really well. I think we have a pretty good safety record compared to some of the other nations out there. We rarely have any kind of accident that is due to mechanical error. We rarely have that. So our maintenance is good. The designs are good, and the safety records are well kept because of that. However, the training, the pilots, we're still humans and we do make mistakes. If everybody if we had a level playing field all over the world, and everybody followed the same safety rules and standards, it would absolutely make things better and safer for everybody.
Everyone be on the same page about it.
Of course. Unfortunately, that's very difficult to do because it's very complicated.
Right.
The economics of it are going to be complicated.
All right, and last question. Why is aviation safety so important in the aviation world?
Why is aviation safety important? It is the most important aspect in the airline industry, as far as I know. Because if aircraft were not safe to fly, nobody would be flying them, and then there would be no aviation industry.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My recommendation would be for pilots to have way more training than what they already have. Clearly, you can see that they were nowhere prepared to do approaches. They missed their first approach, but then they crashed on their second approach. Secondly, the PIC lied about his license. So the license that he claimed he has is fake, and investigators have no idea where he got his certificates from. There needs to be more awareness on making sure everything's legit. Also, the foreign countries should follow U.S. standards and rules, because clearly it's a difference in the aviation department